Hello everybody and welcome back to the Finding Speed GT3 League. We are of course here for the final round at Road America, round 5 of the season, and round 4 at Werrell. My god, what a race, action from start to finish, and I'm sure we will be left with just that here this evening. And you can see, while the drivers are out and circulating in the background, this is only practice, so that does give us a short while just to rattle through the championship order, which has decided not to send anything over. So what I'll do is quickly get that updated on the overlay, so hopefully now we can have a look at our pro standings going into this round. So at the moment you can see Mark Fletcher leading the way, 167 points for Altitude Esports. Chris Tapio sat there in second for RPM Racing on 130. Then just 1 point behind is Tom Dadswell. 14 points back from him is Scott Kimbrough for Empire Racing. 2 points back from Scott is Russell Barnes, Mr. Finding Speed. And you've got to think, Russell has started from the very back row of the grid every single round without fail. And he's up there in 5th in the standings. That just shows the quality of driving being displayed from himself. 4 points back from Russell is Alex Crater for Luxem24 Esports, retired, I do believe, from Werrell, or we did see him have quite the sizable impact with the wall in his McLaren. Not too far back then is Steve Mello, then is Pete Plasto, and Juan Manuel Calleja and Stein van Nylen rounds out your top 10 for your pro standings. We'll just go down to the bottom end of the order so you can see who else is rounding out the top 24 drivers in the pro category. What we'll do, we'll head over to the AM standings, and you can see slightly smaller championship when we get it back up to the top. You can see Patrick Gannon leading the way, very good performance from him out at Werrell last time. Not massively far in front of David Gowrie, however, for Centurion Sim Racing. He's tied on points, tied in second with Simon Chester, the privateer entry. 13 points back then is Brack Crouch. 1 point back from Brack is Timothy Bry for Team Upstate. And then it only gets closer, further and further down we go. We've got Igor Bembic and Luke Davis, both tied, stand by, that is actually Bill Pisick and Igor Bembic on 43 points. Then you've got Andreas Helgud and Dan Ocaranza, both on 36 points, I do believe. No, Dan Ocaranza is on 33. Alex Wright and Kansas Gentry, this one is correct, both on 28 points. And then just towards the bottom end of the order you can see Dominic Linden, and if the overlay stays where it should do, Dominic Linden, Nicholas Matthews and Aris Papadopoulos spread out over 2 points from 19 points, 20 points, 3 points, 19 points, 20 points and 21 points. So 1 point separating that little trio. So there really is lots to play for tonight, and obviously if the overlay doesn't do that, I'll just quickly reload. It hasn't really been playing ball tonight, that's hence why we are slightly late going live. It did just take a little while to get the overlay updated. But you can see, of course, we do have Asatec Sim Sports on board, so a massive thank you for sponsoring the series, Asatec. And as we've previously mentioned, they really do bring their cutting edge technology to sim racing. Now, they've been working on it for a little bit of time, and they've really started to piece it together now. So if you want to look throughout their little journeys and their endeavours into sim racing, make sure you have a look at their development side of things at www.asatecsimsports.com, and just generally about Asatec, go on to www.asatec.com. And they are one of the upcoming and biggest names now in enthusiast PC water cooling. And of course, like I previously mentioned, they are moving over to sim racing as well, so do make sure you check them out. And now, of course, we do have Tam Livery on board as well. So they are a great little, it's a great little organisation in theory, is Tam Livery. He makes some of the best paints, including the Finding Speed paint that you've seen here this evening, as well as Dave Cams, if you recognise him from YouTube. And this has also been added to the prize pool, a premium paint from Tam himself, which is around about the value of $60, which comes with custom design and a spec map, sponsors and name placements, logo placements, and 3 colour combinations, and then all the PSDs following along to make changes in the future. It really is the full package. So the prize pool for this championship has now got a value of over £500, as well as £200 cash put in from Finding Speed. So it really is a great little prize pool, and all the drivers desperate to get their hands on what they can. So you can see in the background the drivers are tearing up the tarmac here at Atlanta. That Audi R8 V10 goes screaming by really, really loud. And just going to his first flying lap now, I do believe, is Tom Dadswell. We'll see what Tom can do behind the wheel of his Altitude Esports machine. Very quick throughout the season has been Tom. We'll see if anybody is in front of him in regards to a lap time. There is Chris Tapio. He's slightly further up the road. Stijn van Nijlen even further up the road. I think Timothy Fry might potentially be leading the pack at the moment. About halfway around the circuit now in the wheel of that BMW. We'll see what Timothy can do about getting that car into a solid qualifying position. Do let me know in chat though what you think is going to play out this evening. Of course, the championship will be confirmed pretty much immediately after the race has finished, so we should be able to announce our somewhat provisional but also somewhat confirmed championship results at the end of the evening. So what we'll do, we'll at the end of the race, we'll go through the driver interviews, but then we'll go for a slight intermission while I update the overlays and the points, and then once the points are up to date, we'll come back live just to rattle you through the final championship points from the final round of the season, and then we will go offline. But that is generally the layout of the evening. Timothy Bryan now through the final corner. Quite a tricky, almost perceptive corner. You've got to turn in as late as you dare, not too late so you run wide, but not too early so you get an off track or a slow one. So it's a really, really tricky little final corner here at Road America. Crossing the line now is Timothy Bry. We'll see what time he puts on the board. It's a 2:34.535 currently set for Timothy. Who else have we got on the way to the line? Got Stephen Brumfield on his way. Stijn van Nijlen goes to the top. So does Chris Tapio now. So the pro drivers started to work their way through. Chris Tapio goes on provisional pole. No, he doesn't. Scott Kimbrough beats him to that. Then Tom Dadswell further improves. A 2:05.15 is the fastest. Yeah, so 2:05.149 for Tom Dadswell. Puts him on provisional pole position. Then it's Scott Kimbrough in provisional P2 with a 2:05.626. And then barely any breathing room between Scott Kimbrough and Stephen Mello. Stephen with a 2:05.623. Look, it goes top. That's Mark Fletcher for Altitude Esports. Tom Dadswell's teammate, he goes top with a 2:05.048, a full 10th quicker than his teammate. And now look who has continued on, hoping to respond to his teammate's time. So down in towards turn 2 now goes Tom Dadswell. He is, of course, like it says on your screen, he is on his outlap. So we'll see what he can do in regards to responding. There's lots of times being posted. David Bush for Lunatic Racing goes to 2:07.159. Alex Wright goes on provisional pole in the AM class, 2:07.149. Currently the fastest time there. So you can see 2 seconds is the difference between provisional pole for pro and provisional pole for AM. I'm sure that gap will slowly start to come down as the evening wears on. We'll see who else we've got out on circuit. Nick McLaughlin for Virtual Racing Compound crosses the line at 2:06.173, just over a second adrift of our provisional pole sitter at the moment. Nick's been one of those drivers which is very consistent and fairly clean as well, and he just sits there or thereabouts, picking up those points. Plays a very safe game, I think, does Nick. He had the attentions of his teammate Pete Blastow, and just as I'm trying to praise him, look what he does. So the Canadian pulls a 360 and onto the infield he goes. The Ferrari then returns to the circuit, and I think we will continue on in the qualifying session. Scott Rister sat there in the sole Mercedes out on track. There's a big puff of smoke in the background. I'm not sure whether that was someone locking up or blowing their engine. Neither was good. But Scott Rister last time out, we saw he got a lot of airtime. He was very busy throughout the race with Scott in the number 42 Mercedes. Colin McKenzie out and circulating for Lunatic Racing. Very unique livery, I think, on that car. It's got a a different little aspect about it. The spec map works very, very well. I do like that. Yes, Nick in chat say the commentary curse. Yeah, my commentator's curse at the moment has just been absolutely horrific. So many people have been falling foul of it. Patrick Gannon has crossed the line. 206.303. Yet further improving the provisional pole time for the AM class. He saw sat stationary. I think that could have either been Nick McLaughlin. I don't think it was Nick. It could have been possibly Pete Plasto slowing down to let by. Alex Wright yet further improves for the old gal in the 130 Ferrari, posted 206.901. Fairly quick time from Alex, but we know he's got more pace there. Graham Bardsley, another driver we've seen little bits on throughout the season, but we know he does have the potential to be right up at the pointy end of affairs. Currently sat in 15th place, not 100% happy with the car just up the road. I think, who is that? Is it possibly Brad Crouch? No, white. It might be the right colours. It's not what we're looking for. And there is a car pointing backwards there. I think that could have potentially been Todd Bosworth. It was indeed. Privateer entry sat stationary on the exit of turn 2. Benjamin Williams in here for RPM Racing in his Ferrari, down towards turns, what is in theory 4, because the little kink on the straight can be classed as turn 3. Up the rise we go, over the crest, under the bridge. Tricky left-hander, the car washes wide naturally because of the camber of the course. And a quick flick over to the left-hand side, or what would have been. Setting up for the next right-hander. Here is Juan Manuel Calleja. Number 5 Nitro Racing BMW. We've seen lots from Nitro Racing as well. Where is Dan Ocaranza? He's a little further down the order at the moment in his Ferrari, going very slowly. Maybe just getting some heat into the tyres. Another very recognisable livery for Centurion Racing Team. The leader of the Centurion Racing Team, that Mercedes sounds amazing as it goes screaming by Stephen Brookfield. We've almost seen his progression as the season wears on. Lots of drivers out on outlaps, as you can see. But he's been getting more and more competitive as Stephen in that 45 BMW. Currently sat in original P6, 2:05.849 posted. Faster times being set, however. Steve Mello has set a purple sector 1 for Vulcan Sim Racing Academy. The Portuguese driver really starting to pile the pressure on Scott Kimbrough now, as their sector times have been very similar. Tom Dadswell as well. He's back out and circulating. Scott Kimbrough is on an outlap at the moment. Mark Fletcher, whereabouts is he? He is also out and circulating. I think what we'll do is we'll ride on board for a lap with, let's pick a driver, Juan Manuel Calleja. He's coming towards the line. We'll ride on board with him. I'm just going to go grab a quick drink. I'll be right with you in just a few moments' time. there we go, a great little onboard insight into what the roller coaster ride around Road America is like. You can see time still being posted. EJ Nixon has improved behind the wheel of his Empire Racing McLaren. 205.619 posted. Both the lead duo of Mark Fletcher and Tom Dadswell out and circulating. They are both on and out lap, so hoping to improve upon their times fairly later on in the session. I think maybe running slightly wide for a moment there was Mark Fletcher. You can see bits of dirt and debris parting company with the car, so potentially a slight gravelly moment there for Mark Fletcher. Juan Manuel Calleja, very shiny BMW in the middle sector of the circuit now. Also out trying to improve upon his time. The Iberian is one of those drivers who's been very quick, but not necessarily the most consistent. You'll see him battling away with some of the AM drivers, some of the pro drivers, and he's been a great driver to watch, don't get me wrong. It's just here and there, I think there's little bits that maybe catch him out through no fault of his own sometimes as well. It would be good to see Juan get a nice result here this evening. We'll actually have a look at David Bush in the Lamborghini. Very, very bright with those lights on the front. And of course the beautiful Lunatic Racing livery. It's really starting to grow on me, is that Lunatic car. Currently sat down in provisional P15 in 206.664 posted. Patrick Gannon, as usual, is the AM pole sitter in the 666 machine. For Team Upstate. Very quick driver is Patrick. I'm sure if and when it comes around to Season 3, if he's still here, he will be good to the Pro class. He is a very good driver, well worthy of Pro certification. Let's see who else we've got. Aris Papadopoulos, also for Team Upstate. When I say circulating, I thought he was actually circulating then, because it took a while just to find him, and the camera was swinging around almost as if he'd spun. But the 222 machine currently sat there in provisional P3. Ferrari seems to be one of the best mid-pack cars in the order. Who else have we got? We've got Andreas Helgrud, also out, going to set a time now in the 238 Ferrari. One of the privateers we've got out on circuit. Just having a look around to see whether there's any major improvements elsewhere. Of course, our pole time has come down. Tom Dadswell to a 4.968, so he's only grabbed about a tenth, but I can imagine with what was a stellar first lap, it would have been incredibly hard to beat, but he's gone and done it. I think that's Benjamin Warburton in the background. It is for RPM Racing. Looks like he's pushing on as well. The last lap he set was a 205.873, which was personal best sectors 3, 4 and 5. Mark Fletcher improves upon his time, but it's not enough for pole. Steve Mello has set a purple sector 1. I think we just saw a car vacate the circuit in the background there. But we'll stick on with Steve Mello for VSR, because a purple sector 1, 800ths quicker than our current pole sitter. We could be looking at one stellar lap. Very wide there. Let's hope that wasn't an off track. I know he's only trying to open up the entrance, but I think iRacing can sometimes catch you out for that one. Through the left-hander we go. And we'll see whether he can improve upon his time. It's fairly wide again, but let's hope that once again he doesn't get caught out. His sector 2 time not so competitive. I think he lost a little bit of time running wide there, flicking up the dirt once again. That Audi popping him, or the Lamborghini, pardon me, popping and banging in the background. Juan Manuel Calleja, of all people, has set a purple sector 2, 800ths quicker than our overall pole sitter, Tom Dadswell, so he's on an absolute mission. Steve Mello hasn't improved in any further sectors, so I think it was just a bit of, I don't want to say luck, but a spur of the moment thing in his sector 1. We'll keep an eye on Juan Manuel Calleja. Oh, yes, we hear an engine blow up in the background. Juan Manuel Calleja is pointing backwards in the final sector of the circuit. Over the road we go and into the barrier, so not quite what we're looking for there. Evidently not going to play a further part in this qualifying session. P Plus though has just, I think, grabbed enough time to do this lap and potentially one more in the virtual racing compound machine. 31 Ferrari going on to this almost first of 2 back straights. Lots of crashing in the background. I think a few drivers starting to push the limits and very much find them at the latter stages of this race, this qualifying session I should say. The race for pole, let's go with. I'm going to stick with Pete to see how he gets on. Still hear a hell of a lot of crashing in the background, so I think, yeah, people are trying to find the limit. Dominic Linden being one of them, so is Dan Ocaranza. I think Aris Papadopoulos had a bit of a moment as well. Stein van Nijlen also. So drivers really starting to not only find the limits of the grid, but find the limits of the circuit as well. I think very close to the grass there for Pete Blasto. See what he do in towards Canada corner now. Through the right-hander, and then it's up a slight climb towards the final corner. Through my eardrums goes the Audi, and into the pit lane goes Pete Blasto, so I was hoping to see him set the time there. Here is his teammate Nick McLaughlin, also out and circulating. Brad Crouch heading through Canada corner now. The checkered flag is out, so now is the final time for drivers to post any further improvements, but I don't think there is going to be any improvements if I'm honest. You can see Brad Crouch with the Tissot Watch Company liveried machine. Very good Swiss watchmaker Tissot. Over the brow of the hill we go. Crossing the line, is this an improvement? If so, by how much? Cross the line, currently in provisional P4, 206.9 to beat, and a 206.755 posted. That does not only improve his lap time, but it does improve his position. Provisional P3 now for Brett Crouch. The only persons that can stop him. Aris Papadopoulos won't be able to do so as he is on an outlap. Here is Graham Bardsley. What can he do about improving? Nothing by the looks of that. We do have Andreas Helgrud coming to the line. Can he improve upon his time? That is very slow across the line, so I don't think that will be an improvement. Stein van Nijlen, very wide through there. That will be an off-track, which I do think will... Oh, well, if the first one wasn't, that one definitely will be. Tom Dadswell, you can hear the V10 in the background, sorry. Personal best sector 1, but no further improvements from there. Slightly sideways through the right-hand kink. Down the back straight we go. I think this will bring an end to the qualifying session once Tom has crossed the line. And I think it's just going to be a practice pit entry for Tom. Into the pit lane he goes, and I think that does bring an end to our qualifying session, as I don't believe we have any further cars out on circuit, which we do not, so all we'll have to do is wait for our grid to become available and the drivers to start taking to the circuit for the 1 hour race, which is on the way here as always for the final round of the Finding Speed GT3 League Season 2. Of course, this is the American Classics rotation. Last season was the UK Tour, this season the American Classics. We've had some proper American circuits, some really nice names out on the calendar. 6.41 kilometres here at Road America in a a circuit which is no stranger to motorsport action. Of course, IMSA being one of the large championships that comes here. Just waiting for the grid to come available. There isn't actually anybody out on circuit, so I'm not sure why it's taking its time. We'll just let it do it. We'll just leave it to do its thing and hope that in a few moments' time we will be able to look at the grid and how they line up for the 1 hour race, the final round of the season. I think we have them available. We do indeed, so we'll get the grid up on your screen. Tom Dadswell takes pole position at 204.968, posted in the number 38 Altitude Esports Audi. His teammate alongside Mark Fletcher. Then it's Steve Mello and EJ Nixon on row 2. Row 3 is made up of Scott Kimbrough and Chris Tapia. Then it's Pete Plasto and Scott Rister 7th and 8th. And Stephen Brumfield has Benjamin Warburton for company, rounding out your top 10. Then it's Stein Van Nylen in 11th and Nick McLaughlin in 12th. Then we have Juan Manuel Calleja, Patrick Gannon, Alex Wright and Richard Jones, David Bush, Brad Crouch, Simon Chester and Aris Papadopoulos rounding out your top 20. Then it's Graham Bardsley and Luke Davis, Bill Piesick and Colin McKenzie. Then we have Timothy Bry, Todd Bosworth, Dominic Linden, Russell Barnes starting in 28th place. Keep an eye on him for working his way up through the order as always. Then it's Andreas Helgrud and Dan Ocaranza rounding out your 30 strong car grid here for round 5 at Road America. You can see everybody lining up now behind that Porsche pace car. We get a full pace lap here, so it's going to be quite some time before we get some green flag action. And I think everybody is out on the grid, so we should end up with the pace car rolling away in just a few moments' time. Let me know what your predictions are for this race, and let me know who you think is going to come out on top of the final round here at Road America. Me tonight, of course, generally my money's going to have to go on the top 2, the Altitude Esports pairing of Tom Dadswell and Mark Fletcher, but for me I'm going to go the driver that we don't normally see this high up. We normally see a different McLaren in his place, EJ Nixon. If he can keep that car on the road, he is looking at a solid podium here tonight, and that is definitely what he needs in the championship to get that final little boost. There is Steve Mello, VSR. I think he's on for a good night as well. In regards to the AM class, of course, Patrick Gannon is going to be the obvious choice, but I am going to go. Let's have a look to see who we've got. I'm going to go for Brad Crouch. We've seen good things for Brad throughout the season. He's got Alex Wright just in front, also in a Ferrari. Also got the pro driver of Richard Jones separating himself and Alex, so I think it could be a fairly busy race. Of course, traffic might be potentially something we think about. Quite a long circuit though, so we could just about get away with it, but with the mandatory pit stop it could throw a spanner in the works, so do keep an eye out for that at the halfway point in the race. Around about halfway around the circuit now, so we should end up seeing the drivers bunched together in a short while to get ready for the start of this 1 hour race. And it's looking like you can hear the Porsche in the background, the flat 6 roaring away. I think we are going to end up with a fairly hectic couple of first laps, because while it is quite a fast flowing circuit, there are a few bottlenecks here and there, so I think potentially we could see a few little incidents at the start. Starting to bunch up, get nose to tail, get ready for the start of the race, and then in just a few moments time Round 5 of the Finding Speed GT3 League will be underway. It's Tom Dadswell who's going to be leading them away from the line. He'll have the inside line for turn 1. I think Steve Mello will be the driver on the inside for turn 1. I'd have thought the way it would have laid them out, it would be the odd numbers on the inside and the even numbers on the outside, but it doesn't seem like that is the case. There is Tom Dadswell, our pole sitter. So he will have the inside. His teammate on the outside, Steve Mello, sat there in P3. So I think if he can get a good start, potentially jump Mark Fletcher, we could see Steve get into P2 for the exit of turn 1. But all the drivers are getting ready, and Tom Dadswell, he's got very early. So bringing Mark Fletcher with him, but we do go green here at Road America. Steve Mello sat there with the wing mirror full of EJ Nixon. Then it's Scott Kimbrough, Chris Tapio, Pete Blasto, Scott Rister and Stephen Brumfield. Look at that turn 1. We're going to go on this camera just so we see them all come tearing towards turn 1. Very busy stuff at turn 1. It looks like everybody's managed to work their way through. We'll just keep an eye further back, and it's a very clean start for everybody involved. So it looks like all our drivers, in regards to keeping it on the road, have done a great job so far. It's Tom Dadswell leading the way. Mark Fletcher still sat there in second, and the top 6 remain as they started. Scott Rister has managed to catch Pete Blasto, possibly slightly sleeping. You can see the gap was opening massively, so we've got the lead sort of 6 drivers breaking away nice and early. There's Tom Dadswell still fronting the pack in the 38 Altitude Esports Audi, with his teammate just sat behind. Steve Mello in 3rd. Everybody's trading purple sectors at the moment. Mark Fletcher fastest sector 1, Steve Mello fastest sector 2, Tom Dadswell fastest sector 3. The gaps opening up fairly early on. Had a bit of a moment, as well as Graham Bardsley. So let's see what happened in the background. There is Dominic Linden, and I think he just tapped the grass on the brakes and then it fired into the side. Graham Bardsley left without too much to do in regards to avoiding that. You can see a puff of almost smoke in the background. It could possibly just be dust and debris from the gravel trap being kicked up, so one of the drivers pushing their limits. But look how aggressive that Ferrari looks. You can tell by the body language of the car, it is pushing forward, really starting to make it great now. Altitude Esports pairing up at the front. First lap of the race gone, still Tom Dadswell leading the way, Mark Fletcher in 2nd, Steve Mello 3rd, EJ Nixon in 4th, Scott Kimbrough in 5th, and Chris Tapio sat there in 6th place. Scott Rister and Pete Blasto remain in the way they do. However, look at this now, Stephen Brumfield at the inside of Pete. So Pete not necessarily being as aggressive as potentially we usually see him at the start. Could be playing the long game, starting to think about strategy. His teammate is not too far back, Nick McLaughlin, stuck in a pack, I think, at the moment. Manuel Calea in front, class leader, Patrick Gannon behind. Closest cars we've got on circle, in fact, are this little play. You can see Richard Jones now in that Ferrari, looking to the inside of Patrick Gannon, and that is a position made now for Richard Jones. Pete Blasto, I think there was somebody swapping places. It's Stein van Nalen. He's gone very, very deep on the brakes by the looks of that, in towards turn 4 in the Ignium Motorsport number 10 BMW. A raft of positions lost there. That's brought everybody back up to scratch again at the front, but it's still Tom Dadswell leading the way, trying to make good his escape from the cars behind. I think Mark Fletcher is hoping, keeping his fingers crossed, that he can stick with his teammate and then make sure he's not bridging that gap back to Steve Mello. EJ Nixon still sat in the wheel tracks of that Ferrari, now apparently without the lights ablaze, so not necessarily that intimidating, but the car does look very aggressive as he stands. Scott Kimbrough following along with his lights on. There is Chris Tapio, currently sat there in 6th place. Then we get the gap that we saw earlier, 1.2 seconds between Chris Tapio and Scott Rister. Stephen Brumfield sat there in 8th place, Pete Plastow in 9th. 2 positions lost. You can see the gravel being kicked up. I think that's just going to be a characteristic of the race. Closest cars we've got on circuit, Scott Rister and Stephen Brumfield at the moment, nose to tail in towards the final corner. You can see the BMW bouncing over all the curbs. A little bit extra there. Stephen Brumfield, Scott Rister, he's going to be giving it a lot of draft now, while the BMW has got quite a sizable frontal area. That draft will also make a huge difference down the straight in towards turn 1. Is he going to look? Yes, he is. He's jinked out to the right hand side of the circuit. He will have the inside line. He's going to have to outbrake him here. 2 doesn't go into 1, but they just about managed to remain side by side, so no positions gained or lost as of yet. Still Scott Rister in front of Stephen Brumfield. One of the drivers is going to have to back out a bit. Pete Plastow is going to be watching this and rubbing his hands together, knowing full well one of them is going to lose out. I think they are still just about side by side, but they're not anymore. So that's Stephen Brumfield up in 7th place, 2 positions gained for him. Scott Rister still sat there in 8th, and it looks like Pete Plastow has read that situation perfectly. I said he was going to be waiting in the wings, but as his brakes lights go on, he decides not to go for that move. But look, he's back on the offensive. That's Scott Rister up the inside of Stephen Brumfield. The inside will still remain the inside, albeit for a short moment for Scott Rister. Through the left-hander we go, and then Stephen Brumfield will have the inside for the next right-hander. So we'll see what happens, and the position does remain with Stephen Brumfield. Scott Rister sat there left with very little to do in 8th. Pete Plastow, after watching all of that, he's the big loser out of this, because while he's got to watch a great little battle, he's lost a heap of time. Benjamin Warburton for RPM Racing is now sat only 2 tenths behind him, bringing with Juan Manuel Calleja and Pete's teammate Nick McLaughlin. Still the Altitude Esports cars up at the front. Towards Canada corner we go, for the 3rd time of asking. Still Tom Dadswell leading Mark Fletcher. Steve Mello hasn't really been dropped that much. Then we see the 1.3 second gap back to EJ Nixon, so it's almost 2 trios up at the front. Scott Kimbrough sat there in 5th place. Very competitive driver. He's got a few little mistakes which I think have been very costly to his championship, but he is still up and fighting for those points. Chris sat there in 6th. Back now to Stephen Brumfield, who has managed to not only pass Scott Rister, but build up a 7/10 gap in the space of a lap. Great stuff from Stephen, making his intentions known and going up towards the front. Scott Rister still under pressure from P, who will have one eye on the road ahead and one eye on the road behind, because the road behind does, of course, hold Benjamin Warburton. Further back, we've got Russell Barnes working his way up the inside of Simon Chester in the privateer Lamborghini. So the 35 Ferrari really working his way up through the order. 8 places gained as it stands. So in what, 3 1/4 laps, that's the lunatic racing Lamborghini of David Bush pointing backwards there, and potentially just touching the grass on the outside. That's just rotated the car around. Patrick Gannon has had a bit of an incident. Let's see what has happened to Patrick in the Team Upstate Lamborghini. Touches the gravel, and while he can get away with it a little bit, he cannot get away with it a lot, and into the tyre stack goes Patrick Gannon. You can't really get that much of a helpful camera on that one. No, it's going to have to be this camera in a big avoidance in the background from the Ferraris. Patrick Gannon continues on with damage aboard that Audi now. Here is Russell Barnes putting Luke Davis under pressure now. We've got a raft of Ferraris, including Russell Barnes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ahead. So it looks like Russell is going to have to get his elbows out here. Of course, the car's very similarly BOP'd. Of course, setup might have a slight impact on that, but it's all going to be down to driving standards and driver skill, of course. We've got Russell Barnes in the draft. He's shown the outside, then he had a little look to the inside the signs just to keep his cards close to his chest. Just almost bide his time at this point. Now look at this lead trio. Tom Dadswell still leading, Mark Fletcher in second, and Steve Mello has done exactly what I thought he would do. He's just sat in the draft. He's not going to go for any rash moves, because he knows to pair off them are teammates. It's easier to pick them off in the pit stop than it is to try and go at them on the road, because then you'll just get held up by the leader and allow the second teammate to work his way back past. So Steve Mello, very clever driving at this point, just sat making sure he can stick behind these cars. Brett Crouch with the fastest lap in the AM class, 2:07.556. So Brack not too far back from the AM class leader of Alex Wright. He is just about within a second now. So the 2 lead Ferraris in the AM, the 130 and the 118. I expect them to be battling away fairly shortly. Mark Fletcher with the fastest sector 6 last lap. So while he is in draft of his teammate now, look what's happening. Steve Mello a little up to the inside, but nothing really came of that time through. And I think for the moment he's just going to have to sit and wait, because if he does go for that move, he is then vulnerable to the team tactics. All he has to do is sit there, because you can't, if as Tom Dadswell, you can't tell your teammate to slow down, because then that is forcing him out of what could potentially be a very good point scoring position this late on in the championship. The teammates have just got to stick together and hope that they do eventually part ways with Steve Mello. But you can't compromise your race just to get rid of one car. So I think Steve is really the thorn in the side of the Altitude Esports drivers at the moment. Only lap 5 of the race, 10 minutes of the race already gone, 50 minutes of the race remaining. And it's still an Audi 1-2, and the Ferrari Steve Mello sat rounding out the top 3. Lap 6 of the race now. And you can see Tom Dadswell is still, he hasn't really got to worry about his rearview mirror. While he knows it's his teammate behind him, he's not got to massively worry about losing any sort of time. But Mark Fletcher, while he is sat there in P2 and trying to follow his teammate, he does have a real threat sat behind him, and I think that's starting to cost him a little bit, because Steve Mello is closing up. Scott Kimbrough in 4th place now. Chris Tapio sat there in P5. EJ Nixon has lost 2 places from where he started, but the duo of trios is now coming under threat from Stephen Brumfield, so it could be a quartet sat there battling over 4th place. Stephen has done a great job of leaving Scott Rister behind. He does have the true pace in clean air. Pete Plastow sat there in 9th place at the moment. Managed to slowly escape the grasp of Benjamin Warburton in the 33 RPM Ferrari. For the moment, it's still Tom Dadswell leading the way. Mark Fletcher sat there in 2nd place, and Steve Mello in 3rd. This little trio has been battling away since the race started. The Iberian sat rounding out the top 3 in that 79 Ferrari, but he is still keeping touch with the Altitude Esports teammates. Scott Kimbrough now 3.9 seconds adrift, with Chris Tapio just knocking on the door, about half a second back from him. EJ Nixon still really close to that number 12 Lamborghini. Stephen Brumfield piloting that BMW, very close to that top 5 now, looking to pick up some late points. Fastest lap of the race set last time through for Mark Fletcher, 2:05.977. Good stuff from the Briton. And you can see Juan Manuel Callejas sat there in 11th place, looking to make that 10th up the inside of Benjamin Warburton. I think that could have potentially been the outside. He really did make that work. Fastest lap of the race in the AM class for Brad Crouch, again at 2:07.226 posted. seconds remaining. You might hear me go quiet every sort of 2-3 minutes, only for about 30 seconds. It's more or less just to let the racing do the talking, because the amount of times I'm left without much to talk about. But then if you let the racing speak itself, it really does, I think, sometimes improve the viewing pleasure. So there will be short little breaks of silence as the race tears away in the background, because there's little bits I will and won't pick up on, but then there's the various little bits that you as the viewer will pick on as well. So I will just let you sit back and enjoy the race. Russell Barnes now up 12 places, sat there in 15th place in class, 16th place overall in that FindingSpeed.com Ferrari. You can see the car lurching on the brakes, so really pushing the limits now. ABS being made full use of there by Russ. Over the cross we go, under the bridge, ticking lap number 7 in the book, going on to lap number 8. A flash of the lights there for Russell. He looks to the inside towards turn 1, so the number 35 Ferrari is on the inside. He has now passed him, and the overlap is no longer there. And Russell Barnes up into 15th place, so the top 15 now a sole pro driver sort of affair. And Brack Crouch sat there in 16th place, first in class. Good stuff from Brack. I think he does in fact hold the fastest lap of the race for the AM class as well. Yes, he does indeed. He's got only I say only a 3.4 second gap back to Luke Davis, but 3.4 seconds is very easily lost, more easily lost than gained. But I think for the moment it's looking like Luke Davis will be very much preoccupied with Aris Papadopoulos in the Team Upstate Ferrari. The 222 machine sat there in the wheel tracks. Purple sector 3 for Scott Kimbrough, so while he is in clean air and he's got the attention of Chris Tapio behind, he is still pushing forward. And there is Steve Mello, still just about keeping touch with the Altitude Esports teammates, but as soon as he drops out that second, for me, I think he is just going to go further and further back, because that draft around here, where the circuit is so flat out, is very crucial, and a mistake like that could be what it costs him. 9/10 adrift now, and I think in the space of a couple of laps' time, Steve Mello is going to be left with very little to do in the way of attack, because he doesn't have that draft assistance anymore, and then could become a cropper of Scott Kimbrough, sat there in 4th place. Road, that is Dominic Linden being lapped by our leaders. He goes very wide, trying to get out of the way, and I think that massively compromised the line of Steve Mello. So Steve now 1.1 seconds drift from that lead duo of Tom Dadswell and Mark Fletcher. So now that has definitely thrown him out of any sort of contention for the top 2 for the moment. Of course, we still have the pit stops to be made, and mistakes can be made at any point throughout the race. So not necessarily in a vulnerable spot at the moment is the Portuguese driver, but not in the best spot, admittedly. See there, another car trying to get out of the way. That's Alex Wright doing so, and he did so greatly, he actually lost the place to Dominic Linden. That is for 10th place in the AM class, 27th place overall. That's very late on the brakes from Alex Wright, and into the side of Dominic Linden, and he just more or less carried on. So I think very little remorse for Alex Wright. I hope to grab him in for an interview to talk us through that incident a little later on. I'm sure that will be looked into at the end of the race. There are the Altitude Esports pairing, Tom Dadswell and Mark Fletcher. So still doing what they do best up at the top end of affairs. .20 minutes, or just under, of the race gone. 40 minutes of the race remaining. And it's looking like it's starting to calm down. Seems like that tends to be the complexion of the race. I say that, but look in the background now. This is EJ Nixon trying to work his way past Chris Tapio in the Lamborghini. Chris parking his car pretty much slap bang in the middle of the road, just doing what he can to make sure that McLaren can't get by. He's looking to the inside. Is he going to run out of real estate? No, he isn't. On the brakes, he does brake earlier, however. Decides he's not going to risk that on the inside, but he can't give up too much time here behind the Nord of Chris Tapio, because Steve Brumfield in the Centurion Racing Team BMW is sat there waiting for that little mistake, that little opportunity to hop into that top 6 in the BMW. Scott Rister sat a little further back. Pete Plasto still sat there in 9th place, has been since pretty much the start of the race. Stein van Nyland sat there in 13th place, hot on the heels of Richard Jones in the privateer Ferrari. Stein van Nyland obviously trying to make up time and make amends for that previous little mistake. Russell Barnes up into 14th place, 14 places gained for that number 35 Ferrari. Good stuff from himself so far, and he's only going forward. Of course, we've still got the pit stop to be made, so I think Russell will be on for a top 10, possibly even higher at the moment, but it's a very tricky track to almost make up ground. It's got to be done on pure pace alone, because so much of the circuit is flat out. It's all got to be done on the brakes and where you turn in and how quickly you can get back on that power to go flat out once again. So Russell has evidently got the bit between his teeth. Of course, he doesn't have to worry about streaming it on his own channel, so he can really get in the zone, make sure he can drive that car to the limit throughout the evening. EJ Nixon still sat there in 7th place. Scott Rister just behind, and he has lost that place to Stephen Brumfield. I didn't see it happen. Let me just have a little look down the event viewer to see what happened between the pair of them. So it was Stephen Brumfield passing EJ Nixon for P6. So here we go, on to the back straight we go, and then yeah, there's no way you're going to go too wide through there, boys. They try it, but EJ Nixon left high and dry. Can't really do much in the way of defence. Nick McLaughlin has had an incident. He's pointing backwards, and that is with another car. That's the Centurion BMW. Not 100% sure who that was. Possibly Dominic Linden. We'll see whether we can have a look at that. I hope it isn't what I think it is, and Dominic going off the road. Of course, this is when he did get a big old whack on the inside from Alex Wright, but did he rejoin the road in front of Nick McLaughlin? Was Nick left without much to do? So returning to the road goes Dominic, and he just elbows into the side of Nick. I'm sure that will be looked into as well, but Nick sat there pointing backwards. He does continue on, however, potentially with a bit of damage on that car, but the Canadian sat there in 15th place in class, 14th overall. There is Russell Barnes, and who is that in the background? That's Richard Jones in the gravel. Let's see what has happened to Richard Jones. We saw him go flying off in the background. You can see the dust being kicked up, and he's just washed wide, potentially. Yep, that's a one-way train to the wall. Does he keep it out of it, though? Almost. No, he does find the barrier, and then even harder into the tyre stacks. Hopefully not too much damage on that car. Just continue on without too much of an issue. I'm not sure how many of you watched the British GT Championship, but that was at Brands Hatch but a weekend ago, and Sam Neary in the Aber Commercials Mercedes. Well, he didn't do that. Richard Jones very hard into the wall, a number 99 Ferrari, and another car's done it as well. That's one of the Team Upstate machines. Let's have a look who that was. Was that Timothy Bry? It was Timothy Bry with a big old moment into the wall, even quicker than I think the car in front. He just grabbed the curb, unsettled the car, and then finally into the concrete barrier. No tyre wall to protect you there, boys. And the pair of them sat without much to do. Let's hope that they can continue on. Dominic Linden, of course, in the pit lane. So too now is Timothy Bry. Nick McLaughlin joins them. Richard Jones does as well. but that has gone from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. Just as I said, the race was about to calm down, it's really started to speed back up again. But back to what I was saying, the British GT Championship was at Brands Hatch just a week ago, and I think it was possibly in one of the qualifying sessions. It was a dry track going wet, and the Abbott Commercials Mercedes of Sam and Richard Neary, they went sideways through turn 1, and if you know your way around Brands Hatch, turn 1, it's not something you want to get wrong because it's downhill, off camber, and then you've got a bit of gravel and then tyres, and literally they went sideways into the tyres and drove away like nothing happened. I don't even think the wing mirror broke off, and there are a few memes going about saying it's like a set of Corsa damage. But yeah, it's very similar to what was happening to Richard Jones, but eventually he came to bite him, and he did hit that concrete wall, and yeah, like I say, there was no tyre barrier to protect him with that one. Tom Dadswell still leading the way. Mark Fletcher just sat behind, but look who's back with them. Steve Mello, 6/10 back from Mark Fletcher. Good driving from Steve. And as we're closing up on the halfway point of the race, you've got to think, going into the pit stop window, is this going to leave him in a golden position to get onto maybe a slightly higher step of the podium? Scott Kimbrough now 6 seconds back. Benjamin Warburton sat there very much underneath the rear wing of Juan Manuel Calleja in towards turn 1. What is he going to do? Is he going to look to the inside? You can see the BMW casting a great big shadow over that Ferrari, and Benjamin still sat there content with 11th place, but he is looking forward to get into that top 10. EJ Nixon down into 5th place. So let's see how that happened. He went off the road, it looks all very tame there, and then on the exit, does he catch the gravel? He does catch the grass as well. The car does remain pointing the right way, a little bit of a wobble, but that's 2 places lost. Scott Rister and Pete Blastow go sailing through. Russell Barnes up 15 places now, 13th overall. And the next target for him will be Stijn van Nijlen in that Ignium Motorsport BMW. Purple sector 5 last time through for Chris Tapio, so Chris really starting to push the limits once again, even when the car's on worn tyres. Of course, it's going to be very, very light in regards to the fuel load, so it is going to leave him with a car with slightly more performance towards the latter stages of the stint. Closest cars we've got on the road are Scott Kimbrough and Chris Tapio. The pair of them have been nose to tail lap after lap after lap, so I don't think anything's going to change in that department. But there is Pete Blastow putting Scott Rister under ever increasing amounts of pressure in that Mercedes. Through Canada corner we go, and then back up the hill through the final little section of corners to tick lap number 13 in the book and head on to lap number 14 of this race. The drivers still sat there in the 2:06s, 2:07, so very good times in regards to race pace. Tom Dadswell crossing the line. Then we get the cars further back. Scott Rister and Pete Blastow as they cross the line, half a second separating the pair of them. Here is Benjamin Warburton, not as close as he was on the lap prior to Juan Manuel Calleja, so I don't think the move will be done anytime soon there. Dan Ocaranza has had a bit of a moment, so we'll see what happened in towards turn 1. So not 100% sure what kind of night Dan is having, but going off that, not a great one. We saw some great avoidance driving from him at the start of the race, and then I think maybe slightly distracted there looking at his delta or looking at somebody trying to maybe plan his pit stop, and it left him very little time to respond to turn 1. There is Pete Blastow still pushing Scott Rister around the circuit. The lead trio still together, funnily enough. It's Tom Dadswell, Mark Fletcher and Steve Mello. And then further back, we've still got Chris Tapio and Scott Kimbrough battling away. Finding Speed, Russell Barnes is sat there in 13th place, although it only looks temporary for the moment because Stijn van Nijlen, the Belgian driver, just up the road. That gap has been coming down by ever increasing margins over the previous laps, and it looks like it's that Alex Wright just up the road. It is as well, so there's a position to be made overall, and then there's Russell Barnes trying to put a lap over on the Ferrari up the road as well. Goes Alex Wright, so that's one thing that Russell Barnes doesn't then have to negotiate. Very close to the wall there, trying to work his way past Stijn van Nijlen. He jumps to the outside, hoping to make the outside work around turn one. It's going to be very difficult. He's going to have to get it done on the brakes. He does give it a go though, not one to pull out of the move, and he does get that place made, then cuts straight back across onto the defence. And that is position made, position secure for Russell. 16 places gained, now up into 12th place. However, Stijn van Nijlen flashing his lights, desperate to maybe put a slight bit of pressure back on Russ, hoping that the mistake will come. He's going to look to the outside, but I don't think the potential is going to be there for Stijn. There is plenty of runoff if you need it, but he decides that time through it is not going to happen. And for me, Russell Barnes is only going to look forward now. And Benjamin Warburton is what is forward. Currently up in 11th place. Well, last time I looked it was 4.5, but now it's 5.5 seconds up the road from Russell. So that gap has definitely opened up. We've still got Scott Rister and Pete Plastow nose to tail, and back up to the the same. I want to keep an eye on them now, as we now have passed the halfway point in the race, so we'll see who's going to show their hand first, and if it is Altitude Esports, what order are they going to pit their drivers, or are they going to double stack them on the way in and get them both in, so they both leave the pit lane at a very similar time, and hopefully start working together once again. You can see the pit entry on the right hand side, and they both continue, so does Steve Mello. Go on to lap number 16, halfway into this race. EJ Nixon and Juan Manuel Calleja in the pit lane. So too is Russell Barnes after getting past Stijn van Nijlen. Stijn carries on. Brad Crouch, the AM class leader, goes into the pit lane, and Simon Chester not too far back. We'll keep an eye on him to see what he does. So he may temporarily pick up the AM class lead. You can see the pit, you can hear the pit lane fans in the background. Patrick Gannon goes into the pit lane. Simon Chester remains out on circuit. I think that's David Bush into the pit lane as well, by the sounds of it. There is Stephen Brumfield in the Centurion Racing Team BMW, not too far adrift of Chris Tapio, and then Scott Kimbrough just in front has just set a purple sector 3, so he really is making this clean air work for him. He's got all the sector times to prove it, he just doesn't have the fastest lap of the race pieced together. Very quick through sector 3, he's actually, looking at it, about 1/4 of a second quicker than anybody else has gone through sector 3 today, so he's really got the pace in there. He's got the car hooked up for the tight twisty section of the circuit. You can see the car squirming around on the brakes. He does get it slowed down, where he's slightly hesitant to brake as late as he just did. Leader in the pit lane, Tom Dadswell, Steve Mello as well, but Mark Fletcher continues on. So I think what Steve is going to try and do is potentially just sit there and hopefully break the joint between the two Altitude Esports teammates. Scott Kimbrough into the pit lane, so does So follows Chris Tapio, Stephen Brumfield, Pete Plasto, Scott Rister, Benjamin Warburton and Stein van Nylen. Simon Chester and David Bush still yet to pit, so too is Dan Ocaranza. And the man we're looking at, Mark Fletcher, provisional race leader. We'll see how long that lasts. He is in clean air. Tom Dadswell will leave the pit lane with the attentions of Steve Mello. But we will see what happens in regards to that lead trio. I'm keeping an eye on the pit timer to see who had the quicker stop. Tom Dadswell a full 10th quicker than Steve Mello in his pit box. So Tom leaves the pit lane. Steve Mello now 1.1 seconds adrift, so a dream stop from Tom Dadswell. He really made that work for him. Stephen Brumfield, by the looks of that, he was three quarters of a second quicker than our race leader. Fastest time though through the pit lane. Great stuff for Scott Rister. Great time for himself. Only 20.6 seconds stationary compared to our leader who had 22 seconds stationary. So 1.4 seconds quick. Yes, in theory 1.4 seconds quicker than our leader in the pit stop. So great stuff from Scott. Mark Fletcher through Canada corner and through the final couple of corners to make up sector 6 and the final sector of the circuit. And this time through the final corner he will jink to the right and head up towards pit exit, or pit entry I should say. So over to the right we go, and then up pit entry. There is Tom Dadswell through the long sweeping right-hander. A few little apexes you can take, but the idea is to aim for that little curb on the inside and then use the exit curb as well. But you can see now 1.3 seconds adrift with Steve Mello. So Steve, while he might have wanted to follow the leader's strategy, it might not necessarily have worked for him. It would have been better if he could do it fuel-wise, maybe to stick with Mark Fletcher, as that car was closer to him, so he will still reap the rewards from the draft. And then it could have left Mark Fletcher slightly vulnerable, knowing full well he doesn't have the assistance from his teammates, so a mistake could come there. But the Altitude Esports guys, very, very competent, very, very quick and competitive as well, so I think they have got this one covered. We'll see what happens. There is Mark Fletcher, the very end pit stall in the pit lane. He will be leaving his pit box in about 3, 2, 1. There we go. Away he goes. Richard Jones you can see appearing in the background. There is Tom Dadswell, a very quick stop from Mark Fletcher, and that was 1 3/4. Sorry, no, it was just 1 1/4 seconds quicker than his teammate, but 3 seconds to the good, however, is Tom Dadswell. So from pit entry to pit exit, Mark Fletcher was 59.97 seconds. Tom Dadswell was 1 minute 3.33 seconds. So Tom Dadswell evidently not having that great a stop, but it has now allowed Mark Fletcher to inherit that lead. Tom Dadswell have swapped places to serve his stint defending from Steve Mello, but he's not really got to do much in the way of that. 1.9 seconds adrift is Steve now. So Altitude Esports have played a blinder with the pit stops. Pete Plasto still piling on the pressure to Scott Kimbrough. What a great stop for Scott. Scott Rister had a great stop, but Scott Kimbrough evidently didn't. 3 seconds slower than Pete behind, hence why we are now seeing this pairing come together. Russell Barnes looking to find another victim by the looks of it. Juan Manuel Calleja this time. This will be for 11th place, and it's EJ Nixon up the road. You can hear the McLaren in the background. You might be able to see it in a few moments' time if the shot allows us. Once the camera goes to the right, you should see that McLaren in the distance up the road. There you go. You just see the tail end of it there. That's EJ Nixon piling the pressure on Benjamin Warburton in the RPM Ferrari. For the moment, I do want to keep an eye on this little battle. It's Russell Barnes in the Ferrari, Juan Manuel Calleja in the BMW. Towards Canada corner we go. It was either Juan Manuel Calleja can carry immense amounts of speed into there, but no, he does look like he had compromised his line on the way in, slightly outbraked himself. That allowed Russell Barnes to close up but not get the move done. This pairing is now the closest battle out on circuit. That Ferrari that just whizzed by your screen there was in fact Brad Crouch, our AM-class leader, starting to put a slight bit of pressure on, I think. Now, who was that? If it wasn't Brad Crouch, who was it? There is Bragg, so it definitely wasn't Bragg. There is Stein van Nijlen, currently on the exit. Could it have potentially been? Yes, it was Alex Wright. Sorry about that. I did think it was Bragg. I was just going to say he's made some immense inroads up to the top 15 places now. Brad Crouch in 14, still leading the AM class as it stands. Russell Barnes still looking to make his way past the Nitro Racing team, number 5 BMW, but nothing is coming of that. He's got to make sure he gets this move done fairly quickly, and he's got to make sure it's decisive, because while he did pick off Stein van Nijlen going into the pit stops, it might not stick with him. But up the inside goes Russell Barnes. I don't think there was contact. There could have potentially been a little bit, but losing one place, turn to 2 as Russell passed Stein there. I do just want to quickly get a onboard shot just so we can see, was there contact? If there was, it was very, very minimal for me. Russell Barnes did everything he could there. He was hugging the curb and I think a bit of grass. I think potentially just a slight bit of aero wash or overcompensating there for Juan Manuel Calleja. Lost out to Russell, lost out to Stein van Nijlen. He's left him in 13th place overall. Net gain so far for Russell, 17 places now. EJ Nixon 4.8 seconds up the road. Here is David Bush. Haven't seen too much from himself. However, he is slowly starting to put a bit of pressure on Aris Papadopoulos in the Team Upstate 222 Ferrari. See David Bush looking to the inside of Aris Papadopoulos as we go over the crest, under the bridge, crossing the line now, and David Bush just gets his nose in front as we cross the line. This is of course a Pro-Am battle. David Bush the Pro driver, Aris Papadopoulos the Am driver, and David up into 19th place overall. Aris Papadopoulos left without much to do in the way of defence in 20th place now. Here is Benjamin Warburton coming under ever increasing pressure from EJ Nixon now. Just over 15 minutes of the race remaining, and it's still looking fairly safe at the front end of affairs. Mark Fletcher leading the way, 2.4 seconds clear of his teammate Tom Dadswell, who is now 2.1 seconds clear of Steve Mellett, but a good drive nonetheless from Steve. Now Ferrari really has worked for him around here, and why not go out with a bang at the end of the season, and that is definitely what Steve Mellett has done here this evening. Benjamin Warburton has had an incident, so let's see what happened here. So he went off the road, please don't do it there, flicked onto the grass, don't pick up EJ Nixon, just about avoided it, but spiralling down the Armco barrier. There is Russell Barnes going by, and I think potentially there has been another incident of the road. There goes Juan Manuel Calleja. Benjamin Warburton, the car still looking fairly straight and narrow. And does he continue on? Yes, he does. That's Russell Barnes, however, sat in the wall. So let's see what happened to Russell. So through Canada corner we go, and then just touched the gravel. It flicked him in towards the concrete, in towards the tyre stack. Hopefully not too much damage, but he was left stationary in the road and went straight back into the wall just to make sure he could get out of the way. So good stuff there from Russell. However, that will mean he has got to make an extra pit stop, I think. So into the pit lane goes Russell Barnes. to pick up his repair, picks up his fast repair, the car stops for a brief moment and continues on. But all that hard work has come undone, now sat right the way down in 18th place, what will quickly become 19th place overall, as David Bush will come by, potentially Aris Papadopoulos as well, and let's hope he doesn't get picked off by Graham Bardsley. I do think he will. So Russell Barnes now, from what was 17 places gained, is now 7. Currently starting in 21st place, 16th in class. So not exactly what we're expecting there from Russell. Here is EJ Nixon and Brett Crouch trading places as they emerge from the crest. EJ Nixon up into 12th place, making amends for that previous incident. Here is Werrell now, still leading Pete Plasto. Chris Tapio just up the road, and he's the meat in the sandwich. He's got to decide, does he want to go forward and set his sights on Chris Tapio, potentially leave Pete Plasto to make a move up the inside, or does he want to focus on Pete behind, but then potentially leave Chris Tapio to escape into the distance? Tricky job here for Scott. We'll keep an eye on him just to see what he decides to do. Back to see what's going on. There is Luke Davis trying to potentially get past Nick McLaughlin. Nick sat there 13th in class, 14th overall. Luke Davis 15th overall, 2nd in the AM class. But Brett Crouch, what a drive for him so far. Back to this battle though, I can't really look away from this. You can see the GSI-sponsored Empire Racing machine through the final corner. Still sat in between the RPM Lamborghini of Chris Tapio and the compound Ferrari of Pete Plasto. Track action. The battle we're looking at is the closest battle we have out on circuit. Thereafter, I think we've got who else? We've got Graham Bardsley and Aris Papadopoulos getting fairly up close and personal. Nick McLaughlin and Luke Davis, the battle we've previously looked at, but nothing is as close as this little trio. Chris Tapio and Pete Plasto is less than a second. So definitely the closest cars we've got on circuit. In towards the final 11.5 minutes of the race now, so not too much left to go. And then what we'll do, we'll run you through the race results, and then after that it will be on to driver interviews, and we'll go for a quick intermission and then bring back the championship standings from the end of the season. So we should end up with the confirmed results, so we know how the Finding Speed GT3 League Season 2 has played out. quick look into the chat. I hadn't really checked on it that much. The racing line, Jack Johns has put in the fact of the day. Aris Papadopoulos has the same amount of P's in his name as he does number 2s in his number. So, thank you, Jack, for the fun fact of the day. Nick's not massively happy with Timothy Bry. I think potentially because his night has not gone massively to plan. Of course, a very big hit into the wall not too long ago, but that car looking factory fresh with a fast repair. Here is Brett Crouch and EJ Nixon getting closer together. Brett Crouch not under pressure massively to do anything in the way of defence. He is still leading the AM class. It will be a change of position overall, but EJ Nixon is one of our pro drivers we have out, so it won't affect anything in regards to his championship. Here is Luke Davis looking to get past Nick McLaughlin on the inside. So it's pro driver on AM driver up the road, and now it's AM driver on pro driver. But look what's happened there. Please don't tell me that's Brad Crouch. No, it isn't. We had a car pointing backwards for a short while. I think that could have been Alex Wright having another little incident. So the car goes off one way, spits one way, into the other, and then into concrete barrier. And everybody does continue on without any further issues, but it's still Brett Crouch leading EJ Nixon for the moment. Felipe Guccia saying go Mello. So we'll have a quick look up to Steve Mello. Still sat in a world of his own, really. 6.5 seconds back is Stephen Brumfield. Sat there in 4th place. Good stuff from Stephen. I think that was one of the drivers I said keep an eye on. As well as, of course, EJ Nixon. His race hasn't gone that great. 9 places lost, and you can see him trying to work his way back past Brett Crouch. But Steve Mello, 1.7 seconds, 1.8 seconds drift of Tom Dadswell now, so he's got a fairly calm run to the line. 8.5 minutes of the race remaining, so nothing really coming his way in regards to a last-minute change of position. However, look at this. This is Scott Kimbrough having to defend from Pete Plasto. Good stuff from Pete. He's up into 7th place, looking to make that 6th on the inside. Who's going to be last of the late breakers? Pete decides it's the last race of the season. Let's not go doing anything rash. Sits there in 7th place. He is, of course, sat where he qualified. All this battling will allow Chris Tapio just to very slightly escape into the distance, but clever driving from Pete. And he does continue on. Here is Brett Crouch and EJ Nixon, still nose to tail, crossing the line to go on to lap number 25 now. So nothing major in the way of anything happening with that battle, but it is still raging away for the moment. Looking to now make a move on Luke Davis. This will be for their various positions on the podium. Luke Davis sat in 2nd. Patrick Gannon sat in 3rd of the AM class. So potentially we could see a very last-minute late change in this race for the podium order in the AM class. There is Nick McLaughlin just up the road, providing some much-needed and much-welcome draft assistance, I think, to Luke Davis. And the battle up the road between Brett Crouch and EJ Nixon is still lit, still remaining ignited for the moment. Now only 6 minutes of the race remaining, so Luke Davis is running out of time. He's also running out of draft by the looks of it. Nick McLaughlin, very scary moment on the grass there, I'm sure. But Patrick Gannon, he is the one that has got to make the move here, so he's got to pull out all the stops to get that 2nd place step on the podium. Nick McLaughlin, track limits again, I think being pushed to its very limit. Gravel being flicked up into the air. the road, we've got still Stephen Brumfield leading Chris Tapio. Equidistantly spread back is Scott Kimbrough and Pete Plastow. But back to this little battle, it's sort of ebbing and flowing. 1 minute Luke Davis is under pressure from Patrick Gannon. The next minute Luke Davis is making and mounting an attack on Nick McLaughlin. So it's slowly starting to play out here in the closing stages of the race. 5 minutes of the race remaining, so about 3 laps for our leader. We'll look where Mark Fletcher is. So I think we will just about get 3 laps extra added on. So I think predictions will be about 29 laps completed of this race. EJ Nixon has had an incident. I think he may have collected Brett Crouch on that one. So let's have a look to see what happened. So here is Brett Crouch. He's over to the left-hand side of your screen, just touches the gravel, flies into the side of EJ Nixon, and a pair of them go spiralling down the hill into the braking zone. And that is so unlucky. We'll get it in slow motion. I know this probably isn't exactly what Brad Crouch wants to see, but he just touches that gravel the slightest bit. EJ Nixon taken completely by surprise. And into the barriers there is Brad Crouch nursing that car home, but it's Luke Davis now in the lead. So this battle went from a battle for second place on the podium to a lead battle between Luke Davis and Patrick Gannon. There's 4 tenths separating Patrick Gannon from the top step of the podium, but Nick McLaughlin still sat there providing all of the draft assistance required to Luke Davis. He does run slightly wide though, does Luke, compromises his exit, so it does mean Patrick Gannon does get the better run of the two. It's now down to what he can do in the way of getting the perfect exit out of the final corner. Set the car up on the entry for the fast exit. Now put your foot flat to the board and see what you can do in the draft. It's going to be very difficult for Patrick to really gain on Luke Davis here, because Nick McLaughlin is just up the road. 3 tenths back as they cross the line. You've got to be pretty much alongside by the time you cross the line to be in any hope of getting that position made. Russell Barnes in the background working his way past David Bush, so more or less a consolation position here. That will be for 13th in class, 16th overall. So unlucky for Russell. You can hear the pops and the bangs from that V10 Lamborghini. But it's still Luke Davis sat there in the lead of the AM class. However, Patrick Gannon, he has dropped back 1.3 seconds adrift now, so maybe a slight mistake, or he's decided, you know what, I'm not that desperate for this win, I'm happy just to sit here. But now look what's happened up at the front end of the affairs. While it won't massively affect the podium in the Pro Class, it might affect the points going into the final few laps of the season, in fact. Stephen Brumfield under pressure from Chris Tapio, Scott Kimbrough and Pete Plastow just about. I think he may have had another issue for Russell Barnes, or he's just being caught out on the brakes. So let's see what happened here. It's going to be a very long way back for David Bush. A huge send up the inside. Russell Barnes went for it, and then I think potentially slightly over-optimistic there for David Bush. And Russell Barnes turned in towards the left-hander, hoping that the car wasn't there, and he just couldn't really do much in the way of avoiding that. But Stephen Brumfield sat there in 4th place, Chris Tapio in 5th. Under pressure from Scott Kimbrough, who is also under pressure from Pete Plastow, so he's really hunting up this little quartet. 4 cars battling over 4th place, and we've only got, what, 1 lap at a push, I think, of the race remaining. I don't think we will get 2 laps out of this race, so we should be on the final lap of the race this time. You can now see Pete Plastow looking to the inside of Scott Kimbrough, sees what's happening up the road, and maybe can't get the braking performance out of the car, decides, you know what, I'm more than happy sat there in 7th place. As much as you want that extra position, it's going to be very hard to do. And we've got to the halfway point of the lap, and we've only got a minute of the race remaining, so I do think we will be on the final lap of the race. Mark Fletcher can't afford to slow down at all, because Tom Dadswell 1.1 seconds back, albeit it's his teammate. However, only 8 tenths drift is Steve Mello, so that lead gap has massively come down. Steve Mello has also been brought with Tom Dadswell. Got to think now, is this going to be the final lap of the race? If so, who is going to get it? I think we could actually get another lap out of this. We've got 30 seconds of the race remaining. We're going into Canada corner. I do think we're going to get another lap out of this. It's going to be tight at the line, but I do think we're going to do it. So Mark Fletcher through the final couple of corners, potentially for the last time this season. Through the final corner we go. He's going to come down to the very last second. There's a car backwards in the middle of the road, but as the time ticks down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is going to be the final lap of the season. It's Mark Fletcher taking top honours here at Road America. Tom Dadswell finishes in second. Steve Mello in third to round out your pro podium. And Stephen Brumfield, against all odds, has managed to fend off the heaving train of Chris Tapio, Scott Kimbrough and Pete Plastow to finish in fourth. There is Chris Tapio, there is Scott Kimbrough and Pete Plastow finishing in seventh place. Good stuff from the VRC driver. Scott Rister, the stole, I hope it's not stolen, the sole Mercedes on the grid, finishing in eighth. Juan Manuel Calleja through the final corner we go in BMW, and while it's been an up and down season, it's been had a consistent season in regards to his performances. Juan Manuel Calleja crosses the line to finish ninth, and to round out your top 10, it's Benjamin Warburton in the fairly second-hand looking RPM Racing Ferrari. Stijn van Nijlen crosses the line in 11th. Nick McLaughlin has still got the battle going on behind him, but your AM class winner is going to be Luke Davis, fending off the attentions of the Team Upstate Audi of Patrick Gannon. Brad Crouch through the final corner for the final time this season. Such a shame. He was on for a win. He made a mistake, but he has continued going round to take the final spot on the podium. And it's Russell Barnes in 14th in class, 16th overall. David Bush sat there in 17th, and Graham Bardsley crossed the line in 18th. Aris Papadopoulos, over the hill we go to finish in 19th, and Simon Chester just behind is going to round out your top 20. And then the final driver to cross the line, the Lunatic Racing Ferrari, the 113, the American Colin McKenzie, is going to cross the line to finish in 21st overall, 6th in class. Good result and a good haul of points at the final round here for Colin. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the season over. One hell of a race to round out the season, but I do think we have the results available to you, so we'll bring them up overall, I think, first, and then we'll look at the various splits between them. Mark Fletcher crossed the line, your eventual winner, 6/10 clear of his teammate Tom Dadswell. And then it's Stephen Mello rounding out your podium. Stephen Brumfield in 4th, Chris Tapio 5th, Scott Kimbrough 6th, and Pete Plastow in 7th. And it's Scott Rister, Juan Manuel Calleja, and Benjamin Warburton. Stijn van Nijlen and Nick McLaughlin rounds out your top 12. Then we get onto our AM class podium, very neatly placed. Luke Davis, Patrick Gannon, and Brad Crouch. Then it's Russell Barnes, David Bush, and Graham Bardsley. And then the final few rows, we've got Aris Papadopoulos, Simon Chester, Colin McKenzie, Timothy Bride, Dan Ocaranza, Andreas Helgrud, EJ Nixon, Todd Bosworth, Alex Wright, and Richard Jones, as well as Dominic Linden and Bill P. Sick. A few retirements there at the end. We'll just bring up the pro results, or it would be nice to. We'll bring up the pro results, supposedly. Evidently not wanting to bring up the pro results. We'll try the AM results. There we go, so you can see the way the AM class runners finished here this evening. And we'll bring up the pro class runners again. Hopefully it'll work. There you go. So you can see 17 drivers made it to the grid, 16 drivers made it to the line. And that is the championship over. So what I will do, I will see if we've got anybody in for an interview. We do have a few. What I'll do first, actually, is make sure I have the championship points available. I'm hoping they have been updated. I've been told there's a good chance that they have been updated pretty much immediately to the race finish. So we should have the up-to-date results available. What I'll do is I will get the results up on screen. Once we've gone through the interviews, we will go for a quick intermission, so then I can get the points up to date, and then you can see the final finishing points and of course the final finishing order for the championship. Just making sure I have the correct points available so I don't go and announce something that isn't correct. So let's have a look to see what has been updated. It does appear that a few of them have been updated, but the rest of them have remained as is. But we're going to bring him in anyway. Mark Fletcher, welcome to the commentary box. Potentially brought in midway through a conversation. Talk us through your perspective from that night, because of course you were sat behind your teammate Tom for the first half of the race. The pit stop separated you, an incredible pit stop, one of the fastest pit stops we've had all night from yourself. That put you 3 seconds to the good, I think, once you left the pit lane. What was the difference between yourself and your teammate?
I didn't take enough fuel to finish the race.
That'll do it.
Well, kind of. The race went a lap shorter than what we thought, so I actually finished with like 13 litres more than what we actually needed. But yeah, I short filled. I saved fuel behind Tom because obviously we wanted to secure first and second in the championship. So Tom had to lead for more than half of the race for him to get an extra point over Chris. So yeah, that was a kind of strategic plan. We'll go with that. But yeah, no, it was really good, to be fair. Car was fast. Car's been great all year. And yeah, just mega to come away with the results that we have.
Well, yeah, I've got to say, it's been a great performance from yourself and, of course, your Altitude Esports teammate, Tom. And I think he said he recruited you. I'm not sure whether it was you or the other way around, that you ended up out-qualifying him at World GT, and you ended up just going, yeah, you know what, well, I'm going to have him on the team. And that appears to be the way it went. A good choice, however, because you were very competitive up at the top. But for the first time in a while, you had a thorn in your side tonight. Steve Mello, you just could not get rid of him. He was with you all race.
Yeah, and I had the guys from Vulcan in my chat telling me that he was saving about 5 laps of fuel, and yeah, to be fair, Rob Vulcan was saying that he's got a new wheel, and yeah, man, he's flying. I was saying to Tom, I said we've got to try and push on a bit, but yeah, he was with us all the way through.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it was definitely quite the challenge to get rid of him. But that is the end of the season, of course. Is there a standout round for you? Of course, we went to a raft of different circuits. There was a raft of different performances from yourself and your teammate, and of course everybody. But is there one round you'd go, yeah, that was the one for us?
I'm gonna say, where did we go for round 3?
Daytona.
It was Daytona. Yeah, that was good because we, it helped us a lot going to circuits that we'd been for World GT, so we didn't have to do a lot of setup work. But yeah, it's that's the kind of track where you have to work as a team, and we've done a lot of prep in quali and stuff for drafting and stuff. So yeah, it was, it's just been a great series. I love all the American tracks, but yeah, fantastically run, and yeah, fantastic to come away with P1, P2, and the teams. So yeah, mega for us.
Yeah, well, it was definitely well deserved. So massive well done from myself, and of course Russell Barnes. I bet he's already congratulated you for like you say, the drivers' championships and the team championship as well. Before we let you go, as per the usual script, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out for the final time this season?
Yeah, just obviously yourself, Jack, for broadcasting the racing. It's been brilliant to watch. Obviously, Russell, thank you for putting on such a great series and welcoming us to the schedule. And then yeah, our team partners. I'll go for the new ones first. So we've got Freem, Acertech Sim Sport, who actually sponsored this series as well. So I got put in touch with them. And then Sim Stickers, one of our oldest sponsors, and also Sim Racing Studios.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. No, go for it.
And enjoy interviewing Tom. He doesn't do interviews, and he has only ever done an interview for World GT.
I think I'm deciding between Chris Tapio and Tom, but I have to say that it's got to be Tom. We've got to bring him in. Thank you for joining us in the commentary. That was once again another massive well done from myself to yourself, and of course Tom and your team. We'll bring Tom in a second, but yeah, well done throughout the season, and hopefully we'll see you at season 3 in inverted commas if it happens.
So yeah, Tom just messaged me on the stream going, "I hate you."
Well, he's coming in.
Thanks,
now. He's
Jack.
got no choice. See you later.
Speak to you soon. Yeah. Cheers. Bye bye.
Mark Fletcher, they're a great character to have in the commentary box, and somebody else who I'm sure isn't massively happy with being put into the commentary box. Tom Dadswell, you've been stitched up there by your
Hi.
teammate. You led half the
He was
race,
watching the stream.
helped him save fuel and all of
Oh.
that, and he goes, you know what, you can bring him in. So welcome to the commentary box. Talk us through your night. It went your way, but you did have Steve Bellow hounding you all the way around.
Yeah, qualifying went well. Got a lap out of somewhere. Didn't know where that really came from. Then yeah, just staying in front of Mark for half the race, trying to get the extra point. And then absolutely destroyed my tyres for the end, and had no pace to hopefully hold Steve off.
Well, I've got to say, it looked like it was a fair bit of a challenge just to try and get rid of him. Because of course you don't want to let him in between you, because then he can somewhat control you, but then you two can always control him. So it's a tit for tat sort of game, I think, tonight. But the strategy definitely paid off, and of course your teammate Mark, he took too little fuel at the pit stop to get to the end, but he'd saved so much at the start. I think it more or less works with him, and of course we went a lap shorter than was expected, so it definitely worked for you. But throughout the season, the Audi has been an absolute missile. We've seen lots of sort of mid-pack action for the Ferrari, the BMW, and the Lamborghini, but the Audi has always been up at the top. What do you think separates it from the rest?
I think it's just because it's a mid-engine car. It's a lot harder to drive, but once you get like the right setups and everything like that, it can be a lot quicker. It's hasn't got quite the straight line speed as the Ferrari or BMW, but most of the tracks we've been to haven't really mattered.
Well, I've got to say, it definitely looks like a very balanced car. I know who was it that we saw? I think it was Scott Kimbrough. He had the car absolutely dialed in for the middle sector. I think he set purple sector 3s sort of 3-4 times throughout the race. But is it one of those things that you've got to dial out with setup? You either quick on the straights or quick in the twiddly bits? Is it like, talk us through how much sort of time you put into the setup and also how it then affects your performance throughout the night?
Yeah, sorry, I just got a message from Mark, just reading that. Yeah, so for the setup, we were running super low wing here, which made it really tricky through the fast, like the carousel and the kink.
Yeah.
So through there it was super, super ragey, just so we could have a bit more straight line speed. But yeah, luckily for this set, we had one from World GT as well, so we sort of just stuck with that, and then just see how it went.
Yeah, well, it definitely played off, and of course, I've got to say, it's been a great night for yourself and your teammate, and I do believe you did secure second place in the championship with leading over half the race. It got you those bonus points just to get you further in front. So a massive well done from myself. Obviously for Mark's Drivers' Championship, you in P2, and of course the Teams Championship as well. So a great feat nonetheless. But before we let you go, for the final time this season, anybody like to thank or shout out while you're live on the Finding Speed channel?
Sven Haas. He helps us a lot with the setups for World GT. We've carried a lot of the knowledge and stuff from that to this series and other series that we're doing. Obviously the sponsors, we've got Ace-Tech Sim Sport, Freem, Sim Stickers and Sim Racing Studio. And obviously Mark and the whole team for getting me on board and let me do this. Great
stuff. Well, it's definitely paid off, and yeah, once again, another well done from myself, and I'm sure everybody in chat and everybody at Finding Speed will back me on that one. But hopefully, fingers crossed, if season 3 happens, we'll see you there. If not, best of luck in your sim racing endeavours.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tom, that's all that. Who else should we bring in? We are going to bring in Chris Tapio. So Chris Tapio, welcome to the commentary box. P3 overall in the standings. It looked like it was a balancing act for you this evening. Of course, you were constantly surrounded by people that wanted to pass you. You had Stephen Brumfield, Scott Kimbrough, and Pete Blasto, and I'm sure there were a few others that I haven't mentioned. I think you had a thorn in your side in the way of EJ Nixon at the start as well. Talk us through your perspective on the evening and overall the championship as well.
Yeah, thanks. I think this race, for me, I knew coming into it that I just have to worry about Kimbrough as far as the standings are concerned. Alex Crater was another one that could pass me. He didn't show up, which is unfortunate. So in the start, Kim Burrell got ahead of me, and I was able to just kind of hang on to him, save some fuel, keep the X's low. So I ended up finishing with a 0X, and toward the end, he was catching me, and Brumfield got ahead. So good on him. I couldn't hang on to him. I had a couple of small mistakes, and so it was a fun race, man. Definitely one of my top 5s.
Well, it looked like it was good fun. I was speaking to Tom Dadswell, and he was saying that setup was one of those things that you either had a very quick car in the twiddly bits, but then you were almost a bit of a dragster on the straight. You couldn't do much in the way of drafting up to a car, and if you're in clean air, you would just slow down so much. But then if you had a very quick car on the straights, it would be very sketchy through the carousel and the kink. But once again, you are quick on those straights. So what was your perspective on the night? Was it focus on getting the setup dialed in, focus on track time, or sort of talk us through your build up to the night, and then also how the various bits changed?
I played with pulling some wing out of it, and it felt good for a little bit, and then today I just decided to go with the regular setup. It just felt stable, and I was happy with that. So that's what I ended up going for, and it paid off. I mean, yeah, I couldn't get people on the straights, but it was fine. I was quick through the twisty bits and just able to hold my position. So I was really lucky there.
Yeah, it definitely worked for you. But one final quick one: the Lamborghini. It's in theory, what I've heard, it's pretty much just a rebadged, rebodied Audi. But it seems like the Audi has still got some sort of an edge here or there. Of course, Audi's won the championship, so I'm sure that's not to take away from the talent of the winning drivers. But the Lamborghini, for me, there's the little pops and bangs and the various different characteristics of the Lamborghini. What made you choose it before the season started?
Well, yeah, the Audis, I think it's just the two guys in the seats there. They're pretty quick, so couldn't go for them that much. But as far as the Lambo is concerned, it was just my go-to for this season. I started out on the Ferrari, and then I jumped over to the Lambo, and the Lambo was kind of that happy medium between the Audi and the Ferrari, where you had the stability through the corners. The Audi can be a little bit twitchy, and sometimes you can lose it. So the Lambo was really stable, with still having that really nice turn in. So yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. Hoping to try out the Porsche as well when that comes out. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, of course, that's on its way. So hopefully, if and when we get this the season 3, we should end up with a few more Porsches on the grid. But
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. But before we let you go, as per the usual, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out for the final time of this season, of course?
Yeah, thank all the guys on the team, Ben and Jim for racing along with us, and Russell, of course, for putting this all together, and Alex for the spot today. So yeah, thank you everybody, and everybody for joining and racing. It was a lot of fun.
Great stuff. Thank you for joining us in the commentary box, and hopefully we'll see you in season 3 as and when that is announced and confirmed. But once again, another well done from myself and everybody here at Finding Speed, and yeah, we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Cheers, buddy.
So yeah, Patrick Gannon there in the Chris Tapio, sorry, but Patrick Gannon into the commentary box. We bring him in, and Patrick, you are, from what I hear, the AM class champion on 112 points. Well done. That's no mean feat. It seems like it's been a fairly up and down season. There's been bits that, of course, have gone very well, bits that have gone maybe not so well is probably the best way to put them. But at the end of the day, you've come out on top, and remember, it's not the taking part; it's all about the winning. But no, a good performance tonight, a good performance throughout the season, I think. Yeah, it just all went your way, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, tonight kind of was not the best race, actually. I had a lot of fighting to do through the field. I qualified pretty well. I qualified in the front of the AM field, so I think that was like P14 or something like that. On lap 3, I ended up spinning, and it brought me all the way back down. I don't remember the exact place, but I was pretty much last. And I kind of just stuck behind my teammates, kind of used them to slingshot past, and just fought my way through the pit stops, and ended up P2 today for class and P14 overall. So I don't know how exactly I did it. I just pushed.
It looks like, as well, that battle that you were looking at, because when you crossed the line, you were battling for first, but 5 laps before, it was battling for second. So it more or less came your way, because I think Brett Crouch had a bit of an incident up at the front, and it just left him without much to do. But I bet that was a nice surprise as well, just to get those almost consolation points, just to make sure you've got that championship in hand.
Of course, yeah. I mean, when I was coming down that back, or not the back straight, but coming down that straight, I ended up seeing a bunch of smoke, and I just kind of look up at my relative, and I see I see two cars had both spun, so I kind of just assumed they collided and put my head down and just went. And that was about 5 minutes left of the race. So
Yeah.
I just tried to push for that P1, but unfortunately I just couldn't get it.
Yeah, I think it was when Brack on the brakes just slightly grabbed the gravel and into the side of EJ Nixon. He went, very easy mistake to make. We've all done it, well and truly. But Road America, it's one of those circuits. It's very wide, but I think somewhat deceptive because you can use a lot of the track limits, just not get away with too much, as we saw on multiple occasions tonight. Heading into it, what was your outlook on the circuit? A circuit you love, a circuit you hate? Like, were you maybe looking forward to it? Talk us through it.
I was looking forward to it. I mean, Road America's a pretty fun circuit. It's kind of new to me. I mean, I'm new to the iRacing service itself. But Road America was really fun. I got a lot of practice in it, and IMSA series. So I had the track knowledge. I just had to transfer it over to GTs. But overall, I mean, it's a fun course. I like it a lot.
Well, it played to your strengths tonight. Obviously, like you say, you're at the back, but you found your way at the front. So it definitely worked for you this evening. But for the final time this season, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out before we let you go?
Well, I would like to shout out my teammates on Team Upstate. Tim, Graham, and Eris. All of them have been fantastic this season. Tim especially, because he was the one that got me into iRacing, as well as showed me this league and said, hey, do this with me. So, yeah, I mean, I want to shout out my team for sure, and especially Tim, so, yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. A massive well done, of course, on the AM Championship. No mean feat, and you say you're new to the service, but it's played to your strengths, and once again, yeah, another massive well done, and hopefully, fingers crossed, if it happens, and as and when it's announced, we'll see you in Season 3. If not, best of luck in your iRacing endeavours.
Thank you. I think I might be the first one to sign up, honestly.
No worries, right. We'll hopefully see you soon, Patrick.
See you soon, hopefully.
All
right.
That was Patrick Gannon there. Sorry about that, I left it on Chris Tapio by accident. That was Patrick Gannon that we had in the commentary box. One final person to bring him. Of course, naturally, we bring him in mid-conversation. That's just how we do it here at Finding Speed. But Mr. Russell Barnes, it was going so well. It was going so well. Just a slight mistake, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, Road America is pretty unforgiving. The car was feeling a bit worn out, and I was just Ben unfortunately crashed literally right in front of me, and I drove by, and I was like feeling really bad for the guy. Literally next corner, I went myself, and I just bent the car, so I had to pit. But you know, that's how it goes. I think I've got off quite lightly on the whole, like through the season. So, you know, I don't feel too bad about it. But yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, it's one of those things you've more or less just got to deal with. But tonight, like you say, Road America, it's one of those circuits. It's unforgiving, but I think it's deceptively so, because it's very wide, and you think, oh well, I can use all of that. But if you use a couple of inches too much, take that how you will, you end up in the barrier. And it seemed like that caught a few drivers out this evening. But it's, from what I gather, from what I've seen, it's one of your personal favourites. I'm assuming this was sort of the hallmark. This was like, this is the one to round out the season.
Yes, I mean, it's just a great track. It's got everything. The racing's guaranteed to be close. You know, it's just a lovely track. But yeah, I just want to say that everybody who's driven this season has done amazing. There's been some great races. There's been really great tight racing. Everyone's been fair and decent. The standard of driving and sportsmanship's been excellent. So thanks to everyone for taking part. It's been really, really good fun.
Yeah, I've got to say it has been brilliant to watch. But of course, this is season 3. The big question. This is season 2. Pardon me. This is season 2. This is the American Classics rotation. But the big question, season 3, is it happening?
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, absolutely. We'll do. We're going to close out Finding Speed GT3 League for now with season 3. We're going to do the best European tracks on the service on iRacing. I haven't set a date for it yet, but if you want to take part, if you want to find out more about it and watch it and chat to the drivers, come and stop by the Discord. There's a link in the description. It's just findingspeed.in/Discord. And if you're interested in it, there will be an announcement on that in the coming weeks, and we'll get that kicked off. I'm going to take a little break in the meantime, though, because I'm knackered. It's been really tiring, but it's been absolutely brilliant. I've had the best time, and we've got some great drivers, and it's just been the best fun. So thanks, Jack. Thanks for all your help, man. It's been great. Thanks for commentating.
No worries. And after a little bit of sort of brain racking, I've managed to get the up-to-date championship standings on the overlay live as well. So hopefully we get to have a look at those just before we head off.
Oh, nice.
Off air. But before we let you go, for the final time this season, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, as well as yourself and the drivers, the sponsors for this season. We've got £500 worth of prizes that are going to be dished out very soon. Thanks to Aztec Sim Sports. Sorry, I'm so tired. AztecSimsports.com. They've provided some great prizes for us. Keep an eye on their website for some awesome sim racing gear coming soon. Tam Livery, he's going to do a paint for one of the teams this championship. We've got a couple £100 to go give away. We've got another paint from a member of the Discord as well. So yeah, just thanks to the sponsors. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will be back in a couple of months' time.
Great stuff. So thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box, Russ, and of course, well done. Not only on tonight, but on the season throughout. Lots of heavy lifting from yourself, and of course everybody in the background at Finding Speed. And you produced another great season of GT3 action, and hopefully we'll see you at season 3.
Nice one. Cheers, Jack. Thanks, mate.
No worries. Bye bye. That's Russell Barnes, Mr. Finding Speed himself, and as I mentioned, we do have the up-to-date and somewhat confirmed results from the season, the championship results. So we'll get them up on screen now. So the pro, I say the pro, it says am for some reason. We'll bring that back up. There we go. So the pro standings, the championship goes to Mark Fletcher. Tom Dadswell, his teammate, finishes in second. Chris Tapio rounds out the top 3. Then it's Scott Kimbrough and Steve Mello in 5th. Russell Barnes finishes in 6th. Then it's Pete Plastow, Juan Manuel Clayer, Stephen Brumfield, Stein Van Nylen, Scott Rister, Nick McLaughlin, Alex Crater, Benjamin Warburton, EJ Nixon, David Bush, Richard Jones, and James McIntosh in 18th place. And I think we've just got a couple more to go. Yep, Graham Bardsley, Braden Coates, Drew Becker, Ted Bradbury, John Dinkle, and Billy Fletcher rounds out your pro standings for the season here at Finding Speed GT3 Season 2. And then we'll just go up a little bit further. There we go. Patrick Gannon takes the AM class win on 112 points. Simon Chester in second on 92. Brett Crouch, only 9 points back, finishes in third. I'm sure tonight, if the race had gone his way, he could have potentially been in second place. Timothy Bryan 4th, David Gary 5th, Luke Davis in 6th, Alex Peck in 7th, Bill Piesick in 8th, Alex Andreas Elgrud in 9th, Dan Ocaranza in 10th, Igor Bembic 11th, Alex Wright 12th, Aris Papadopoulos in 13th, Todd Bosworth in 14th, Colin McKenzie in 15th, then it's Dominic Linden, Kansas Gentry, and Nicholas Matthews in 18th, and just a couple more to go. We've got Graham Brown, Patrick Lowry, and Rob Rodriguez Jr. in 21st place. So it's a sad moment, really. This is the end of the season, and of course, hopefully, we end up with a season 3 on the way. Hopefully, the replay does go off the screen, and we do end up going back live. If not, worst comes to worst, I will just do that, and hopefully, it brings it back with us. There we go. So, not only is it the end of the stream, it's the end of the season as well. So, from everybody here at Finding Speed, all the admins, all the drivers, and everybody that has played a part, including, of course, the sponsors, as well. And of course from myself, Jack Werrell, thank you very much for watching not only tonight but the previous rounds from the Prelude race at Laguna Seca to the final round here at Road America. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you very, very soon for Season 3 of the Finding Speed League. Bye-bye.